Landau to the podium.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks to all of you for being here today. It's an honor for me to be here on behalf of the Secretary, who expressed his regret that he couldn't be with us today. As you might have heard, he's got several other gigs that keep him busy. But I consider it a real privilege and honor to be participating in the 60th Annual Foreign Affairs Day, in particular in this very space that I consider hallowed ground for our organization. Because today is a day, and this is a particularly appropriate place, to pay our deepest respects to those who've died in service to our country. I used to come into this building, as I just mentioned a moment ago, starting in the late 1960s when my father was the country director for Spain and Portugal for 6 years, from 1966 to 1972. And he'd bring me in on Saturdays, and I would walk in these doors right here, and these flags made a huge impression on me. I think that actually sparked my love of flags, which continues to this day. And I have flags outside my house. I find this to be one of the most incredible places. There's a lot more flags now than there were in the late 60s when I was a boy. I always like to go through. I think I still can recognize most of them. But I think these plaques behind us also caught my attention when I was a boy. And just the way in which members of our government, working for different agencies, the Department of State, the U.S. Information Agency back in the day, USAID, some of whom gave their lives for our country. And that is something that I think those of us who remain have a duty to continue to remember and pay respects for. One of the wonderful things about having been ambassador to Mexico is learning their traditions about Day of the Dead. And in Mexico, they say that you are not really gone as long as someone actually still remembers you. And I think it is fitting and appropriate that those of us who work in this building and who are loved ones of those who work in this building continue to recognize that we are all part of one family, and that we remember these names who are on these walls. They're not just names, they are human beings who had families, loved ones. Some of you may be the families and loved ones. I remember very vividly when we were living in Paraguay in 1973, and Ambassador Cleo Noel in Khartoum, Sudan, was assassinated. And that made a very big impression on me as a boy, thinking that, wow, that could happen to my father. And, I think I just had an understanding, as I'm sure those of you who've been out in the field know, that you do take risks in the service of your country. And those risks are very real. These are not people that are, again, just abstract things. They're people that those of us who are here in this audience worked with or loved or both. And again, I feel like this is one of the most solemn but important aspects of my job, to pay tribute to those names that are on this wall. When I came back in this job recently, I was somewhat surprised that these are the plaques I remember in the middle with the kind of faded writing. I didn't understand why there were so many new names. And I gather that AFSA actually hired an archivist who kind of dug deeper into the records and found more people who had given their life for our country, some of them going back to the 19th century. And again, I think that is fitting and appropriate that we make sure to honor everyone. So again, I think this is just one of the most important things that we do, and I feel a sense of reverence every time I walk by these plaques. It's something that you really never get used to just walking by, because every time I remember that these are the men and women who have really paid the ultimate sacrifice. Today, we are here to bring in to the State Department the USAID people who've given their lives, these more names, people who deserve our respect and our thanks for their sacrifice for our country. And I think it's fitting that they're here alongside their State Department and USIA colleagues, because we all work together in foreign missions. Again, when I was growing up in Asunción in the 70s, I'd say about half the mission was USAID. And many of my closest friends that I grew up with, their parents worked for USAID. So I think that is a mission that we respect, and we brought many great things for our country. And again, I just want to recognize the sacrifice, the commitment, and the professionalism of this work on behalf of the American people. And again, I realize today many of you who are here served with people whose names may be here, and I just think it's very appropriate to recognize them. Let me just take one moment to recognize the people who will never make it to this wall. Our local staff, contractors, and family members. Again, anybody who's worked in an embassy recognizes the importance of the locally employed staff, who really do form the backbone or the institutional memory of our missions abroad. And I certainly hold them in extremely high regard, and I'm sure I'm seeing some nods here that many of you in the audience agree with me on that. So again, we are all part of the same family, and again, I think this is kind of a time for a family to come together at this particular ceremony to render tribute to fallen members of our family. Fortunately, I'm told that no new names will be added to these wall plaques, to the State Department wall plaques this year, but unfortunately, 3 colleagues will be added to this USAID memorial wall in the near future. And let me just assure you, Tom, I will make sure with every breath in my body that this plaque gets put in a place of honor and distinction in this State Department building. We will look to, it's obviously large, but we will make sure that happens. I'd like to recognize 3 names that will be added to the USAID memorial wall in the near future, and recognize and honor these 3 individuals. First is Michael Dempsey, a USAID Senior Field Program Officer who was aged 33, and he is survived by his parents and sister. There's Jacob Tukey, I see a sign for him right here, God bless you, age 50, who served as a democracy and governance officer in the West Bank Gaza mission and had been with USAID for 24 years. He is survived by his mother, 2 daughters, and many family members, some of whom I suspect are here today. Oh, no, anyway, remembering him again. God bless Jacob. And third, Edward Wynant, a USAID Foreign Service engineering officer, age 54, who is survived by a wife and a young daughter. So at this time, we will lay a wreath at this memorial wall as a tribute to these fallen colleagues, but also to all of these fallen colleagues. By this act, we will honor the sacrifices and names on the wall and remember everyone who dedicated even a part of their lives to this important service to the American people. So thank you. With that, let's present the wreath. Thank you very much.